Greetings, I'm Professor Hobo, and welcome to another Hobo Tech News product review. The popular dash cam and car accessory company 70mi has decided to break into the solar generator market with their new 1200 watt offering called the Power Station Tera 1000 at a ridiculously low introductory price. Should the competition be scared? Let's find out.
HOBOTECH.
The Tera 1000 sports an EV-grade lithium-ion battery rated at 1,000 cycles to 70% capacity and uses a high-quality Texas Instruments BMS or battery management system. For size and weight, I'll put those numbers right here on the bottom of the screen. I weighed this myself. It came in at 27.6 pounds. As for build quality, they use a 2-layer impact-resistant ABS PC material over a galvanized steel chassis with a unique triple ventilated heatsink design and thick silicone feet. This makes this one of the most durable power stations on the market today, and they claim it can actually be dropped on the concrete without damage. Of course, I had to test that claim myself. Tera 1000 is turned on. This is a concrete floor. It's dirty because I'm still doing some construction, but let's go ahead and drop this from 1.5 feet and see what happens. That's about 1.5 feet. Oh, I hate that feeling. So here are the results. It works perfectly fine, but it did mark up the plastic pretty bad. I'm gonna have to try to clean this up, but there's no actual damage, no cracks. It does have these thick rubber bumpers on the bottom, which made it bounce when it hit the floor, but nothing's cracked. Everything looks good. And to drop something almost 30 pounds like that, not have any damages, pretty impressive. And that test was done early before I shot any of this, and as you can see, it's no worse for wear. As for the display, it's a high quality 2.8-inch TFT IPS LCD. In other words, it's pretty awesome. As for the inverter that's in this tiny little box, it is a whopping 1200 watt pure sine with 3 15 amp outlets. As for solar capability, this does have an MPPT controller built in, which can handle from 12 to 27 volts up to 10 amps, 200 watts of solar through what's pretty cool, an Anderson input, which we don't get these too often nowadays, but it's always welcome. As for ways to charge, it comes with both of these cables. This is the AC wall outlet cable. There is no power brick, no external power brick you have to worry about with this. This plugs directly into the back. It goes right into the wall. This is a cable you can find a dime a dozen on Amazon or most electronic stores. This will charge from 0 to full in only 2 hours from AC wall outlet. And a unique feature of this is it actually allows you to half that charge rate. So say you're on a limited circuit or you're running from a gas or a propane generator that's not very large, like a little 800 or 1000 watt, like an Alp propane generator. You might want to turn this down to slow charge speed as to keep the generator quiet and fuel efficient. So this lightning bolt is the charge speed. Right now it is set to fast charge on, so let's go ahead and set that to off. And you'll see it drops way down to under 300 watts. So slow charge is about 288, and fast charge is going to be about 763. Now, if you have 200 watts of solar, you can plug that into the 8mm or the 30 amp Anderson, and that will allow you to charge this unit from dead to full in 5 to 6 hours. And it does come included with a 12-volt charging cable, so you can charge this from a 12 or 24-volt vehicle, and that'll take about 8 to 10 hours. As for 12-volt outputs, there are 3 total. You get one 10-amp 12-volt cigarette lighter output, and 2 5521 3-amp barrel plug outputs, all regulated at 13.6 volts. As for USB output types, this sports 2 USB-A 18-watt quick charge ports, one 18-watt power delivery port, and one 60-watt power delivery port. Note that these USB ports are output only. As for other features, this does support remote control through a Bluetooth app, and it does have some advanced features built into the screen. So you got these 4 symbols here. A stands for auto output off. So under no load, the machine will turn itself off automatically. I have this shut off because I don't like that feature. Here's the charge speed adjustment. So this last one is timing settings. So you can actually go in here and tell it to turn off or turn on AC or DC power at certain times. So you want to turn it on in an hour or 2 hours or whatever, you can set this to turn on and off certain things. So then you'll see on the screen here, it actually says 2 hours on. So that means the DC will come on in 2 hours. That can all be controlled within the app as well. And of course, no review would be complete on this channel unless we talk about the built-in flashlight. We have the flashlight, which is very interesting because it's not actually a light, it's more like LCD screens. But of course, they have to put in SOS for you in case you're stranded on that deserted island. I did find one use for the SOS mode, and that's to flag down our little buddies upstairs. As for the warranty, 70Mi offers a 2-year limited manufacturer's warranty. And of course, we took the 70Mi into my secret laboratory where I performed all kinds of crazy experiments on it, including a double-fisted battery capacity test. As we found from the results of the DC capacity test, we scored 791 watt-hours out of 1,000, or 79% effective, which is not fantastic, but it's about average for this test. The results of the AC capacity test, which tests the inverter, we were able to score 850 watt-hours out of 1,000, or 85% effective rate, which is certainly better and still about average across all brands. Do remember that solar generators reserve some amount of the battery capacity, usually 5 or 10% of the bottom, to protect the battery life. So when they claim 1,000 watt-hours, you're never going to get 1,000 watt-hours. At most, you'll get 950. So scoring 850 is actually pretty good. As for the max charge rate results, the input was verified to accept 12 to 27 volts at 10 amps. They did claim a 200 watt limit, but we were able to push 220, 230 at 27 volts. At the standard solar panel range of 23 to 24 volts, that means 200 watts should not be a problem. As for simultaneous charging ability, this result was conditional. It will charge from AC and DC simultaneously if the AC charge rate is set to slow and not fast. If it's set to fast, charging from the DC port is disabled anytime the unit's plugged into the wall. Now, most solar generators do make some kind of noise while they're charging, usually under their max rate or you're pushing them to their limit. Not in this case. When this thing's charging from the wall at its max rate, it doesn't make any noise at all, and that's great to hear. Or should I say, not hear. Of course, I tested a 12-volt output, so I got this new fancy pants tester here. It's got Bluetooth. It'll sync with my phone or my tablet and let me do discharge tests over time. I'm using this today because I want to be able to see if this port can push over 10 amps. The other tester I have is limited to 10 amps at 12 volts. I'm currently testing the cigarette lighter output. Now they're all joined together. They all provide the same amount of power combined, so it's not like they're separate circuits, so testing one's testing all of them. So let's see what we can get. You see right there, we're doing 13.6 volts. Let's go ahead and turn it on. You'll see the bling light show. 10 amps, and it's still holding 12 volts, which is pretty awesome. I can go ahead and raise 11 amps, 12, and there it goes. It shut down at 12 amps. I also tested all the USB outputs. They all work as intended. For this next test, we're going to do the pure sine wave check under load. So we're going to put a load on the Tera 1000 and see how does the sine wave look. So at 1,000 watts, it's still a stable 110 volts, 60 hertz, with a nice clean sine wave. Now for this next test, we're going to max out the inverter. This is the inverter capacity test. We're going to see how far can we push this inverter before the power station shuts down. And again, we'll be using the solar degenerator. Okay, what we're watching for is the number right here. I have a heater plugged in on the floor, and the rest of the power is going to be from the solar degenerator. So I'm going to start with low heat and work my way up. Okay, so there we are at the 1200 watt that it's rated for. Let's see if we can push it a little harder. 14, 15, 18, 19. 2,000, 2,100. Finally, at 2,100 watts from a 1,200 watt inverter, it shut off. I hit the power button and it comes right back on, no problem. So those are some really fantastic results. This is a 1,200 watt inverter, and I was able to pull over 2,000 watts with it before it finally shut down. Now, obviously, you're not going to be able to pull 2,000 watts for a long period of time, but this test is to show you, for example, if you plugged your home refrigerator into this and it spiked up to the 2,000 watt range for 2 or 3 seconds, because that can actually happen pretty regularly depending on your home refrigerator. Some of them will run just fine on a 1,000 watt inverter. Some of them need a 2,000 watt inverter. This is actually saying that you could plug a pretty much any size home residential refrigerator into this and it will start it up no problem, because it can do that 2,000 watts for several seconds before it shuts down. So thumbs up on the inverter. Now here's something I noticed about the Power Station Tera. Usually when I run this test and I'm maxing out the inverter, especially when I'm taking it sky high like that, usually a bunch of jet engine fans turn on, it's like super loud. I just realized no fans are on. I'm running this at 1,200 watts. It's maximum rated output with the heater on the floor. The only sound you can hear in the background is the heater. There are no fans kicking on, and I've had this thing running for a couple of minutes. There's no fan. Now, they did say there's a fan in here, but apparently they have a giant heat sink, and that's how it's able to absorb and release that heat without using the fan as much. And it says you probably rarely hear the fan kick on, but I'm at 1,200 watts. How much does it take? How much does it take to get the fans to kick on? I'm going to try this again. In fact, what we're going to do next is the 5-minute heat soak test. That's usually where I push it, the inverter at its limit for 5 minutes, and that usually always makes the inverter fans kick on, because you're pushing it to its limit for a long period of time. So let's go ahead and do that. It's currently running 1,200 watts right now. Like, it's handling it no problem. So I'll just start the stopwatch, let it run for 5 minutes, see if we get those fans to even kick on. All right, we're coming up on 5 minutes. Still running 1,200 watts. No fan. So this is one of the first times in a long time I've actually been shocked or surprised from a power station. Usually I get them in and I go, yeah, it's just another Jackery lookalike. It just does the same as all the others. There's nothing special about it. It's got, you know, USB ports and plugs and an amp. I mean, there's nothing different, right? Usually power stations are bigger and bigger and bigger, but there's certain things in part of the technology that they never can fix, which one of them is the loud fan noises. Now, I've been running this for 6 minutes at its maximum. There we go. It finally kicked on. I was like sitting there going, wait a minute, I'm starting to think there's no fan at all in this. But after 6 full minutes running at 1,200 watts, the fan finally kicked on, and then it just shut off again. That didn't even give me a chance to run the sound test on it, but it's very quiet. I'm going to rotate this, and I'm going to show you how big this hole is on the side. They have a fan in here like this big, okay? That's probably why it's so quiet. They got a giant heat sink in there with a big fan that spins slow. I bet you guys didn't even hear that kick on. Hear it? I'm just amazed. It's a very quiet, very pleasant fan sound. It's not anything at all that you would consider intrusive or annoying. It just kicks on for a few seconds here and there. Somewhere around 51.5 decibels. Now, I know if I don't do this test, I'll never hear the end of it, so I do have this air conditioner plugged in here, and we're going to go ahead and turn on the air conditioner full blast, see if the 70 mic can keep up. High cool. Okay, so it says it's pulling about 460 watts. So there you have it. It will actually run an air conditioner. Now, what happens when you're plugged into the wall? Can you turn on both AC and DC? In other words, does this have AC and DC pass-through charging? So as you see, we're plugged into the wall. We're fast charging. I'll go ahead and turn on the DC. DC light comes on. You see the screen change above. And let's go ahead and press the AC. Nothing happens. So yes, full of surprises, this product. It doesn't have AC pass-through charging, which I find very shocking. So when you're plugged into the wall and you're charging this thing, you can't use the inverter. Now, you could use the DC. You can charge your devices you can run a 12-volt fridge. Now, what they tout in their brochure says that this provides pass-through charging, but what they don't tell you is they mean solar pass-through charging. The solar coming in is supposed to power all the circuitry, and then the power comes out without touching the battery. So you can use this for years and years in pass-through charging mode without damaging the battery at all. But let's see what happens when we plug some fake solar into it and see if the inverter will come on at that point. So there are the results. It will pass through DC charging, but not AC charging. So if you got a 200-watt solar panel plugged in, you're charging from solar, or you're charging from your cigarette lighter, whatever power coming in will bypass the battery and come through the inverter or the DC ports up to that wattage coming in. So if you got 200 watts coming in, you can pull 200 watts out of this without damaging the battery. If you exceed that 200 watts, it'll start discharging the battery. So it's that simple. I don't know why they did it this way. You would think that since it's got a built-in charger, that it would not be a problem passing through AC, but maybe that was the conditions they had. Like, in order for it to support pass-through charging without damaging the battery, they couldn't use the internal charger for some reason. Now, I don't know why, but like I said, this unit is full of surprises. So here we have the 70 my 100-watt solar panel along with the unit. It is sunset. There are lots of clouds in the sky. Just to give you an idea what the solar panel looks like set up. It's got decent legs on it. It does offer some USB ports. And my favorite part is it's actually MC4, and they give you a parallel adapter in the box. So right now we're only getting 17 watts, but that's expected. I mean, you can see the clouds in the reflection. We got pretty cloudy skies, and it's like 4:30 in the afternoon, so literally sunset. Solar panel has this shiny coating. It doesn't use any Velcro or straps to hold it closed. It's just carry it closed. So looks like a pretty quality panel. Now on the product website, they show musicians plugged in and rocking out using amplifiers. So I got an amplifier here. I got it cranked all the way up with nothing plugged into it. Let's turn on the inverter and see if we get any noise. So there's your answer. It's actually clean. So the inverter on this can be used with musical equipment or ham radios. Let's show you the app here. It is very basic. You can actually turn on and off the power station, which is pretty rare because you usually can't turn them off. It only lets you turn it on, but you can remotely turn on and off. You can see the screen comes back up. So it actually is allowing you to completely power it on and off with just the app. Of course, you have control of the lights. You can turn on and off DC or use the timer. Same thing with the AC, press that. You can do it immediately or select a time. And one of the things I didn't even realize you could do is adjust the brightness of the screen. So if you want to turn it way down if you're in a dark room, or if you want to crank it all the way up if you're in the sunlight. A couple of extra settings here. Allows you to turn off output for no load. I left that off again, and it lets you change the frequency of the inverter and reset factory settings. That's all she wrote. So what do I like about the Tera 1000? Well, here's something you don't hear me say every day. The Tera 1000 is actually one of the best built power stations on the market today. It's obvious they didn't take shortcuts or chintz on materials. They use EV grade batteries with a brand name BMS, not some cheap Chinese junk. They use a galvanized steel chassis instead of aluminum, which is a lot softer and easier to bend, and it has a double layer case, making it resistant to drop damage, and we proved that ourselves. They use a top-of-the-line heatsink style cooling system that's actually silent running like a submarine, except under the most extreme use cases. When the fan does come on, you'll barely notice it. The TFT display on this thing is high-grade color IPS and not some washed-out, hard-to-read screen. They also designed a fantastic dual-speed charger that's built in. Again, something we don't see too often with these smaller units. Remember, this is only 1,000 watt-hour. And that brings me to my last item of fanboy worship, and that's the inverter itself. They crammed a fan-friggin-tastic 1,200 watt inverter in here, which is severely underrated. I've been able to push 1,300 to 1,400 watts pretty consistently without shutting down. This means it should be able to start up virtually any residential refrigerator and air conditioning units up to about 10,000 BTU without issue. It also means that 1,000-watt microwaves should be on the set, as those regularly pull 12 to 1,300 watts while they're running. So you can do quite a bit out of this little box that you couldn't do, say, out of a Jackery. And that takes me to what I don't like about the Tera 1000. Now, I'm not really sure what the engineers were thinking here. The lack of AC pass-through functionality is really this product's only failing. Now, they quote safety is the reason, but as we know, many Sogens nowadays feature UPS or support AC pass-through. Now, this is only going to be a game breaker for those of you that wish to leave the unit plugged into the wall while you run your AC appliances at the same time. For everyone else, you probably won't care. Now, this last item is more of a wish than a gripe. I wish this unit supported 400 watts of solar, as in two 200-watt panels in series. That would really make its game stellar. With so many Sogens today charging in 3 to 4 hours, it's a shame I even have to mention this. While 5 to 6 hours isn't terrible, it's a bit retro 2020 if you know what I mean. That being said, I was hard-pressed to really find anything wrong with this thing. In fact, I was pleasantly surprised by some of its features, which is a rare treat for me. Now here comes the best part. First, I'm going to ask if you're not wearing underwear right now, please pause this video and go put some on. They don't need to be clean because you're about to get them dirty. When I saw what they were charging for this thing, I was glad I was wearing mine. First, let's put this in perspective. The Jackery 1000, which has the same size battery and older technology, goes for around $899, and that's during their best sales. The brand new Delta Mini by EcoFlow has similar features and is about the same size but without the EV grade battery, and is certainly cheaper built. It's going for around $1,000. Now, BLUETTI doesn't actually make anything in this exact size, but the closest match is the going on a 3-year-old EB150 with a 1,000-watt inverter. You can nab those on sale for around $899. Now, knowing the competition in this class and the build quality of this unit, I fully expected 70 mAh would be charging around $799 for this. Not even close. Instead, they're practically giving these things away at only $599. That's under 60 cents per watt hour when others are charging 80, 90 cents, or even $1 per watt hour. And this isn't some cheaply built piece of crap on the edge of retirement. None of them can be dropped on the concrete without some major damage either, but this one can. This unit's a true mid-size portable that's just small and light enough to toss around, yet can actually run secondary backup duty in the home. Now, it's not going to run your full-size residential microwave, your RV air conditioner, or your 1,800-watt hairdryer, but if the sticker on the appliance says 10 amps or less, the Tera 1000 can cut it. As for recommended solar, you can get the Tera 1000 bundled with 1 or 2 of their 100-watt solar panels, and those solar panels are high quality. They use standard MC4 connectors and plug nicely into the unit's built-in Anderson port. No wonky 8mm necessary, and running third-party panels is easy. And if you're looking for solar panels larger than 100 watts, I have several options available on HOBOTECH.tv. For those not in the know, we do have a Facebook group called the HOBOTECH Crew, where we stroke our neckbeards and chit-chat about solar. So come on over and join us if you have some questions. And if you're interested in checking out the Tera 1000, the solar panels on my website, or are interested in our Facebook group, the links are below this video in the description. Thanks for watching. If you learned something today, don't forget to give me that thumbs up below. And if you're not a subscriber already, you know what to do. That's it for now. Till next time.
Odin commands you to like and subscribe, and clean my litter box.
For build quality, they use a 2-layer impact-resistant ABS PC material over a galvanized steel chassis with a unique triple ventilated, I feel like I'm on Star Trek trying to say these things. The phase inducers of the warp core need to be calibrated to the dilithium chamber matrix.
RV Golf Guy, Medic Audio Repair, Andrew Vaughn, Roger Cardano, Brian Blue, Bruce Johns, Jason Sirocco.